Okay, I'd like to call to order the March 25th, 2024 BOSAC meeting. Roll call, please, Ann.
Excellent. Jeffrey Bergeron.
Here.
Chris
Here.
Duke Barlow.
Here.
Nikki LaRochelle. Here. Bobby Zanka. Here. David Rossi.
Here.
And it looks as though we have Kristen Joyce with us virtually.
Oh,
I don't think she,
is it from
Oh.
jail? I'm here, but I don't think.
we tried to make her a
Because
panelist.
she's in
We
jail.
can try that again.
Wi-Fi is really bad in Palm Springs prison.
Kristen, if we make you a panelist, you're able to speak if you accept that on your end. There we go.
Great.
Excellent. Thanks, Kristen.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Kristen.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, approval of the minutes from February.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Great. And agenda, any changes or discussion on the agenda for tonight?
Only change is that, our friend at the county who was gonna attend fell sick today, so we'll be trying to cover some of the Lorium without him. Some of that discussion.
Okay. Public comment, thanks to those in attendance. Anything non-agenda items you guys would like to comment on before we start rolling? Okay, thanks for being here. Okay, staff summary, please. Ann.
Excellent. Well, we are still continuing to get snow, which means we're still continuing to groom. Also collecting a lot of data at our trailheads and area trails just to get a better idea of some of the users that we have out there in the winter months. And we have started our seasonal hiring process. We have, I think we just got word today that both of our naturalists are coming back again this summer, which is excellent. And that's always such an amazing thing when we have great people with knowledge coming back. And we have, I think, about 4 of our techs on the crew coming back, and we have some really amazing candidates we're excited about. So in the midst of that hiring, we'll keep you posted on that.
And what about housing? Do we have housing for the naturalists?
Surprisingly, everyone's local, which is amazing, and everyone has housing, which is even better. Yeah, exciting stuff. Tony and Joel are still trying to narrow down some of our projects and dates for Friends of Breckenridge Trails, but we hope to have that finalized by the next meeting in April. Again, that will be a good mix of some trail-based projects with some land management activities. The county is going to do another countywide weed pull this summer, so we're going to tag team with that and have a Friends of Breck event kind of tied into that same day. So that'll be exciting.
Do we know when that is?
It's the middle of July, that middle Saturday.
Just gonna see if Greg and Mariko will be healthy by then. Yeah, we pulled last time together.
The organized by the county.
Yep.
Same thing. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be the same thing, kind of having a gathering, I think, at the senior center in the morning and then dispersing to different sites around the county. So they've just been planning some of the logistics of that, but should be a great event.
Saturday, July 13th.
July 13th. Perfect. Excellent. And our signage work plan RFP is live. There's a link there in your packet to check that out. We've been getting, interestingly, we proactively reached out to some of the local firms we've worked with in the past and just said, hey, there's an RFP live. But we've been hearing from a lot of out-of-state firms so far with just general questions, and we'll post answers to those questions on Wednesday of this week. But it's good to see there's hopefully some interest there, and we hope to get some good proposals in the door.
On these, is etiquette, the etiquette included etiquette issues included in these plans?
It is. Yep. We were trying to capture the kind of the regulatory signs, the wayfinding signs, and the etiquette signs. What we didn't really want to get into was the interpretive stuff because we work with Breckenridge history on that. So,
You know, and I don't know how, obviously, I'll be out to pasture, but I would really, you know, my personal opinion, I'd make sure we kind of give a leg up to the local companies, just because, one, we want to keep the money in town or in county, but two, I think a lot of the people that work there will have an understanding of our system and our needs. So I'm sure you guys know that, but I just wanted to put it out there.
to hear. And we haven't received any proposals yet, but folks have till the 12th of April and we'll see what we get in by then.
Cool.
Questions have you gotten? Do you have a guess?
From 3 different firms, very, very out of state type questions. You might say, just not familiar at all with our system and our needs, which is a challenge sometimes in working with out of state folks. So, yeah.
Are there people in town or in county or in state that do that stuff?
Mhm.
Are they here?
Yep, yep. We just haven't heard from them yet, but we're hopeful and we put a lot of word out there. So we're hoping we really attract some good folks to bid on that. Our friends at the county were successful at getting a state trails planning grant for the Camp Hale and Continental Divide National Monument access planning around the southern end of the 10 mile. So this is everything around Quandary, McCullough Gulch, Blue Lakes, even Spruce Creek. We've been trying to just really get a better handle on visitor use management, and the Forest Service is, expecting there to be an uptick in people just because it's a national monument and people definitely do seek that out. So the county was successful, and both the Forest Service and the town are partners in this project of just trying to figure out how we're going to plan for that, and really want to be thoughtful in making sure that if we're really putting some of these restrictions or managed visitor use controls in some area, we're not just pushing that problem elsewhere. If any of you have been to Spruce Creek lately, you can see it's been just kind of madness over there. And so I think with all the work that we've done at Quandary, a lot of folks have gone to Spruce Creek. That's an area that definitely needs a lot of attention as well. So it's just a planning grant, and we're hoping that we can continue perhaps working with the Volpe Center, who has been working with the Forest Service locally in the county. So we'll keep you posted on that, but really excited to be able to have some planning dollars to work on this. It was just shy of 45,000.
And is that something that they manage, or will it be?
They will
shared?
manage. Mhm.
Will any of your costs get covered by it, you think? Or-
I doubt it. I think we'll probably contribute a little bit of money to it, but waiting to see what contract they get in place and what those overall costs will be. So small planning grant, and hopefully that'll be completed in early 2025. That's the hope at this point.
And do you know how much the planning is gonna cost, what the budget is?
I think the county was anticipating probably about a 50% match with that. So it's probably about an $80,000 project, I think. With partner contributions. Oh, can you?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
thanks. And otherwise, we wanted to include some maps with the project list that we included last time. Let us know if you want more information, want more or changes to those maps. We've been trying to find a format that works to provide a little bit of context in some of these areas if you're unfamiliar. But let us know. We'd appreciate some feedback.
Appreciated having those maps.
Okay,
Because the
excellent.
maps I have are outdated.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Well, we'll continue with that. And then we are still planning on having the joint meeting on April 9th, the town council. Don't have an agenda just yet, but if you do have ideas of things you want to discuss, come let us know. And we'll be following up with you just as we get a little bit closer. Just coming up soon.
Anyone have anything on staff summary? Thanks again for the maps. I know that was our request, and they're great to have as a resource.
Excellent.
Okay, Vice Chair. We thank you, Chris, for your service.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And I think we need to fill that role for now, and then we can reassess our structure next month in our April meeting.
Are we llooking for suggestions now?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'd like to nominate myself. No, yeah, I'd like to see Nikki step up. I think right now we're coming to this kind of a crucial time with implementing the master plan, the science plan, all this stuff. It'd be good to have a KG vet in the second chair. And so I think.
KG about her.
Pardon me? Sorry. So yeah, I think you guys do good. So that'd be my choice. Let her step up. She's done it before. And I don't know what your future, lies, Duke, and yeah, I think now's the time. I think she'd be great to have up in there.
Already second that nomination. Oh. Third it.
Thanks.
Fourth it.
Unanimous.
That would be
Kirsten's.
accepting of the nomination.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Oh, thanks. I acquiesced and now I'm back. So thank you.
Be a brief intermission.
Well, changed the officer terms last June, so they are one-year terms, just to give an opportunity to more folks to be able to step into that leadership role. And April has typically served as our annual meeting, so that's why we typically do our officer elections every April. So let this be a little dry run for next month, just to keep on our schedule.
Sorry, we need to take-
Official vote.
Thanks, Mark. Everyone in favor of Nikki as our new BOSAC vice chair? David?
Yes.
Bobby, you're in support?
Awkwardly, yes.
I support it. Kristen?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous support for that. Thank you, Mark.
Nail biter.
Thanks, Nikki.
Okay, yeah, so in April, we will do this again. Be thinking if you're interested in either position. I have loved it, but I'm happy to step aside and let someone else have a turn if there's interest. Okay, anything else on that? Dry Gulch.
Yes, so we have Larissa with Breckenridge History with us. And as many of you know, we purchased this property last April. It's an amazing property. It's been a high priority for us just because it is surrounded by so much national forest and town and county open space. And we have been directed as staff to develop a management plan for this property, figure out how we're going to use it. And of course, we have all these structures on the property and really want to lean on Breckenridge History to figure out what the best use of these structures are. So Larissa can take it from there. There's a great memo. We included some photos also in the packet. But just they have finally completed a good inventory of everything on there and have some ideas. Oh, there's a button on the very middle on the top of the microphone itself.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for letting me join you again to talk about Dry Gulch. Tony, would it be possible to maybe scroll down to the plan view map of the property as a starting point, just for those who are not as familiar? I'll maybe talk through some of those photos as well. But it's a little difficult to see. This is the best we could do for a map of the property as of now. This is Eric Twitty's rendering of the property. And it's in the memo, but just as a little background, this was a mining property. It was called the Lightburn Tunnel. It was a big dream and a big flop. That's the best way to describe it. There wasn't much to it. On the property now, most of the mining era structures are kind of near the southern end of the property. They're all labeled with F. So we have the actual tunnel, we have a few boarding houses, a shop, and that's about it. And then, the Lightburn Tunnel went away very quickly. About 65 years later, Glenn Campbell purchased the property. He reused some of the historical structures. He brought a ton of artifacts to the property, and then he rebuilt or he built new structures on the site, which is a lot of what we see now. So I'm going to that's kind of the middle part of the property, but here is an overview of some of the building structures that are new to the site or contemporary. They're not new, they're 50 years old, so they've been there quite a while. But we've got that main building that a lot of you may have seen before. It's kind of that Western frontier style town is really, I think, what he was going for. He built a kitchen, some cabins, the main hall, some restrooms. And then at the top here, we have a few of the historical buildings from the mining era, what we think was a blacksmith shop, the entrance to the actual mine, which is still there. He rebuilt part of the mine itself, so it does go back a fair ways underground. an explosive magazine storage building. And then here are just a couple more photos as you're looking at the property from looking north from that main entrance area. And on the right here, we have a boarding house circa 1900 from that original mining era time, some collapsed buildings. Right here, we have what looks historical. It's actually something that Glenn Campbell built. It's just a replica mine shaft. Here's a wagon he brought on site. And then there's that boarding house that was kind of adapted over time. And then an interior photo of that main building. So a pretty big space with a bunch of artifacts, things on the walls from stuff that Glenn Campbell brought to the property. So it's a really interesting site. It's something we haven't really quite dealt with before. And I think the challenge here is that we don't want to misinform the public, right? We don't want people to show up and just without any information assume and go away thinking, well, this was this cool little Western town. It wasn't. And so that's really, I think, something that we've been thinking about. If you were to ask a mining purist historian, which I have, they would probably say, as this person did, get rid of all the contemporary junk, just keep the mining era stuff. I think we can do a really cool job of interpreting both time periods, both the mining history as well as how the site was repurposed and used for the Tiger Run Tour business that Glenn Campbell has. So I included some recommendations in the memo, and I think they're pretty straightforward. There are those, the bathroom and the kitchen, both of which have or had, I believe, running water piped into them. I don't know exactly how. I think for us, the storytelling is not, there's no detraction if those buildings are not there. So considering demoing those buildings. Otherwise, keeping all the artifacts on site for now, doing some sort of passive interpretation, just putting up some interpretive signs, letting people understand what the site was. And otherwise, looking long-term, I see from our perspective, it's a pretty limited impact, limited use. I think we continue to tell the story through signs. Maybe at some point we look at doing some guided tours up there. Looking at stabilizing the buildings that do need help. I think we'd want to do a structural assessment in the near term and long term, if there's the need, doing some structural work. These are all at least 50 years old. I don't know what kind of building permits were pulled at the time of construction in the 1970s when they were built. And then, also looking at some accessibility. There is the road that goes to Dry Gulch. So maybe there's some inclusivity opportunities for getting people there who can't physically get to the site. And then finally, all of us know about the interpretive signs we have in French Gulch, and we have done some in Gold Run, but I think there's a really great way to link those all together on the Gold Run side and do a bit of an interpretive loop. We have the Preston Town site, which is sort of our social history. This one is its own little beast. Peabody Placer, which was really a surface mining, but kind of decimated mining operation that really took out all of the flora in that zone. So I think there's a way to tell a broader story, in Gold Run, and Dry Gulch would just be a part of that. So those are some immediate recommendations. I think I did mention in the memo, if there is an interest in doing some sort of third-party evaluation or bringing in a third party to look at Dry Gulch, given there are these complexities, historical as well as recreation and environmental factors, we would support that, given that the historical stuff is just under our purview, and all the other things add a whole other level of complexity. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you envision leaving these buildings open and let people self-guide it?
I do not. I think we need to keep them secure. In fact, last summer when I went up there for the first time, the portal to the mine was wide open and you could just go back there and cruise around. So Tony's crew went up and secured that right away, just because I think it's a liability. I don't see these as a go inside kind of experience unless it's guided.
Do you think it's feasible or it'd be an attraction if BHA offered kind of like bus tours, like say, show up at whatever, the gondola lot. We'll pick you up in a big van. We'll bring you up there, show you around. The buildings will be open. We'll walk you around. I mean, it just seems like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think some of the families that might do this, I don't think they really care that much if it's like precise historic significance and what is not historically valid. I think it's just kind of a cool place to go. I mean, is that something you think you could sell, or?
I think longer term, if we're given the time to really explore that in staffing and all of the things, I think, yeah, there's certainly an opportunity to bring more people up there in a guided format.
Yeah.
Larissa, while we're on that topic, could you talk a little bit about the loop suggestion? Like, is that something that you foresee potentially in the future, like you just said, or?
I think it's a really neat opportunity. I think it could operate a lot like the French Gulch interpretation does, with kind of low impact passive signs that, you stumble upon something and there's a sign there and it gives you some indication of what was there and what importance it had versus just a pile of rubble. And I think the other thing that does is it helps protect these resources. The more that we show that these are assets to our community and that people care about them, the less likely they are to be abused.
And so I think we really just wanted to start a conversation, and we don't have to have everything figured out today, but it's super helpful to just understand what's on the property. We as staff walking through that, we're entirely sure what all of this stuff was, what historical significance there was. And I think we just want to continue a conversation as to how we manage this property and what might be done in the near term, just to either secure it or, what ideas we might have. I do think that there are two septic systems on the property that date back to maybe the 80s. And it kind of slipped through the cracks when we purchased the property that we were supposed to have filled out either an agreement to abandon those septic systems or an agreement to repair them. And so I think the county is going to have us deal with that this summer. And I think that might be one immediate thing. Do you see a need for septic? I'm not sure even how operable they are. We know very, very little about these systems right now, but if we're under a time crunch, we may have to agree to abandon those.
Are they metal, they steel?
I really don't know. I don't think environmental health had a lot of information because they're pretty old ones. But we think there's two on the property.
A bigger deal than fixing it? I mean, is there more mitigation required if you abandon it than if you just fix it?
Fixing it is usually much more of an issue because the standards of when the septic was initially installed have changed drastically in size and everything else. So abandonment would be far easier, I think, in this regard.
Larissa, your recommendation to engage in a planning study with an outside agency, is there an agency you guys have worked with in the past? I mean, is there like a roadmap for this, or is this new?
I mean, I know the town has worked with Norris before and we have on a limited basis, but I think the reason that I included that is this seems much broader than the input we're providing. So we want to contribute and, do what we can for the preservation and the storytelling end of things. But beyond that, it's sort of let others take the lead.
Is there a consensus that we want to do more than just historical interpretation there?
No, I think that's what we want to spark conversation to see what folks envision for this property. We have been setting up a wildlife camera just so we can get a sense. The previous owner had a lot of wildlife cameras set up and was always sending us photos of elk and other animals on the property. So we want to a little bit get a better understanding of how the wildlife are utilizing that property. But knowing there's all these structures and there's road access, we're really looking to you for some ideas of what you would like to see with this property. It is mid-country zoned. And I think that the county is not an owner jointly with us on this property. They did contribute some funds And we always just keep each other in the loop, if nothing else, and probably would get a little bit of their feedback.
One of the things that I'm concerned about, one, I think this is I think this is a gem. And if we manage it properly, if we have the manpower to do it, I think it would be a great destination. That said, I think there's is much needs to go into it before we can kind of make that decision or even go to that direction. One thing that, shooting the snake that's closest to our foot that I worry about is, kind of like the issue that we have at, the B&B Trailhead with the high school kids, bonfires and stuff like that. That's even more remote. It's an easy place to get to, and you have flammable structures. So I don't know how we do it, what we do about that. Cameras, lights, I don't know, but that's something, I think the first thing we have to do is protect this, protect the assets of this place. And I could see that just being a cool place to go with when your daughters grow up, and have big parties and stuff, raves. So, you know what I'm saying? So what are your thoughts? What are our thoughts on this?
We talked about this and, the gate was installed originally for John Cooney. We
Yeah.
put that gate in. He was like, I want non-motorized. I'll work with you guys on a trail easement. It was a go back and forth on that. But I think as we move forward with this management plan and decisions, our staff would like to leave that gate there until we kind of figure things out. And maybe it is permanent, but I think we all agreed with those comments that
Okay.
the liability issues, the potential to, to have damage to the resources is
And can they come the other way?
not, there's a gate at the bottom
Okay,
of that
all
as
right.
well. Yep.
Well, I would look into, support, reinforcing, just making sure that gate is sturdy,
So what kind of things would be on the table as far as other than historical interpretation and just nature hikes? What kind of things would it be suitable for?
Well, I think just one of the questions is even what Larissa has outlined in here in terms of even demoing. I mean, do you want any of the more modern structures to remain in place, and what would be the purpose or use of those? Do we want to keep it to the more historic elements? I think that's one question, because if we do leave some of the modern stuff, that could open it up for, who knows, some other type of use I'm not envisioning at the moment.
Bingo nights?
Maybe so. So it is a little bit, of a tricky access if you're coming by foot or by bike. It's a little bit of a ways in for folks, but there is road access or skiing access in the winter months.
I know, I was thinking you could, from a winter perspective, something like the Hallelujah Hut on Siberian Loop, which I don't know if that's been problematic for staff on any level, but something like that could be neat because it is more of a destination. So I could see people, like to your point, Jeffrey, sort of making an effort to go there.
Yeah,
And-
I used to have a key to those buildings when Cooney owned it. And I'd cross country ski up there and, he'd keep it at like 40 degrees and, with like Gatorade. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I don't know how much man hours it would take, and I wouldn't recommend heating it, but something like that, yeah. And because you don't get the rebel cross country ski crowd, It's not like the high school kids like the fat biking crowd is a little bit rowdy.
But it is
But-
adjacent enough to Gold Run that Joel could, for instance, just like,
Check on it, yeah.
well, he could do potentially like the snowmobile track or some, I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head.
And you could do that on one of the buildings that a little bit more modern, so you
Right.
wouldn't have to worry about a historic fabric. And I do think, to the question earlier, I think we should leave all the safe buildings up there. I don't think we need to cull anything that's non-historical, because I think that if we leave it as is a little bit, it will kind of offer more possibilities down the road. So yeah, I think it's a great idea, yeah.
Have you had issues with like the Hallelujah Hut? Just curious about.
It's definitely something we could talk to the Daytons about because it's kind of like our purview. but
Okay.
It'd be interested to see how that goes and what it's like. I think we kind of agreed too, Jeffrey, of like, just minimize liabilities of any structures
Yeah.
out there, and then let's kind of go from there before
Yeah.
we start tearing anything down.
I like the secure the buildings and then secure the access with the gates. Commission a study to get some guidance, but I like the idea. Larissa's, we can kind of tell both stories. We don't need to get rid of the newer, more modern stuff in any kind of hurry. I support that. This is not in the document, but I am curious as a user. Dogs weren't allowed there before. Now that we own it, can we let dogs go through there and use the trail? I guess I want to
Yes.
know why
Yeah.
not, if not.
Yes, yeah, it's an open space.
Yeah.
Larissa, I was curious, the tunnel, so there's 1,700 feet of current tunnel. Where is that exactly?
So let me scroll to the photo. The best shows it here.
That where the
Okay,
mine is?
so it's in this top photo. This is a new building that was constructed and then the tunnel, goes back from there. My understanding is Glenn Campbell rebuilt the first 100 to 200 feet of it. It did go back almost 2,000 feet back in the year 1900. But most of it collapsed between then and when Glenn Campbell purchased the property. So I've peered in there and it definitely is like a dark cavernous space. So I think it still exists in some form, but that's as far as I would go.
Okay, okay. I was just curious. I
Yeah.
didn't know. Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Why did Campbell buy it? For just for fun, or was he doing any mining?
Tours.
Yeah, Tiger Run Tours. It was
Okay,
a
yeah,
Jeep
so
and
that's Lee
snowmobile.
Cross's predecessor.
After his music career.
Yeah.
When you talk about undercutting, is that the same as claim jumping?
My understanding is it was, yeah, kind of like going below some of the other claims to
Yeah.
get to these mineral veins and
Him to it.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
interesting.
Didn't work out.
Like the idea of bringing somebody in to help with that. And then definitely what everybody else had said, there's a lot of opportunities in finding some way to secure it, remove liability. I agree with Jeffrey. I think the newer fabric should at least find the ones that are safe and then keep those if possible, but see what your consultants might say.
Any chance we could have a bathroom there? I mean, there is one. Is it something that's,
That opens up a whole, well, I don't, go ahead.
I worry about maintenance.
Yeah.
Honestly, who's going to staff that and clean it and winterize it and
Yeah, we can
everything
barely
else?
keep the dog poop bins cleared as it is.
well, I hope we have dog poop bins.
I mean, if we want to do a porta potty, I'd support
easier.
that, but
Mhm.
yeah, because with a with a bathroom, you need water, you need separate septic, you need a lot of stuff that might not pass county's regulations,
Mhm.
Isn't there an outhouse at Hallelujah Hut? Is that our, or is that the Dayton's
So
responsibility?
An outhouse at hell, yeah,
There is.
yeah,
Yeah, behind it. Whose
yeah.
responsibility is that to maintain?
Hey,
Oh.
And just on that note, my understanding is that the water for the restrooms at Dry Gulch, it was piped down, probably without any permit to then function their like flush toilets, or what are inside the restrooms there.
Yeah, I doubt that would pass muster today.
Now owned by a government entity.
Mhm. Well, I do think this is really helpful. It's great to understand what's on the property and kind of that initial, I think, we'll make sure that we're working to secure the buildings for sure and secure access. And we can continue talking from there about what else we might want to do or if we want to engage a planning agency.
is it non-motorized up there? And are the gates prohibitive? I mean, can the gates keep out dirt bikes?
Yeah, I think when we put in those gates, it was the same time as closing off Sally Barber Road. So we knew it was going to be pretty contentious. And we hired a contractor from Boulder area who actually used like oil drilling solid pipe that were pretty heavy duty on that. Yeah.
Chris, you okay with this direction?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I'm just glad we acquired it, and I think we slow roll as far as what the usage would be. I don't think we need to make any decisions right away. Secure them.
Bobby, you're good?
Yep.
I think everyone, okay, support. Thank you, Larissa.
So
Impressive inventory list.
I know, this stuff was leaning on trees. Okay, I think.
Yeah, I'd say, if we brought in a consultant to help us out, one of the things that are there any trail decided not to do one because we've seen a lot of signs of there. Maybe it's a sensitive area, or that's something to look at. The other thing I have heard, at least whispered in the suggestion was, would it be a location for summit huts? So
Kind of like what you,
there's probably a few things we could talk about. I don't know if it makes sense. But
Thanks, Mark. Okay, Lorium.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we are without Jordan Mead this evening, who was gonna bring in a little perspective from the county road and bridge. And I'm gonna turn this over to Tony to walk us through. But we wanted to take a look at some of the options that many of us have walked in the field. And the local engineering firm that we engaged came up with another option, which we think is pretty amazing. So Tony, you wanna
Yeah,
walk us through
I'll
it?
just kind of breeze over these. I feel like you guys had a good chance to look at them. Option one was looking at regrading the existing trailhead, which really doesn't pan out to meet grades, and the amount of work that would take really doesn't do a whole lot for us to regrade it. Then we looked at options 2 and 3, which we talked about going in through the green gate, using that open area to create a parking lot. And then option 4 was actually in a new area, just a little south on the road, which would be clearing, regrading, and creating a new parking lot. And
Tony,
then-
so when you say south, is that,
Yeah.
would you go by the existing gate and keep going and have it there, right? Not before, not on the upper hill section.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I'll pull up that map. So here's options 2 and 3. Looking at just resizing that area. And here's the option 4, Jeffrey, where the trailhead is just down here. So it'd be going up the road a little bit, creating in a new driveway, and then parking just up above it. Does that make sense, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. yeah.
Okay.
is that inside the field?
No. the
This is
meadow would
down
be
from the field, so it's into that lodgepole forest, but
Yeah.
close to the road.
close to the road.
Hey, this would be a great thing to have on the agenda for the joint meeting.
I was thinking the same
Oh,
thing.
Yeah,
true.
because council's interested in this.
What really quick was the thought process behind 4, just that it's lodgepole and generally sort of flat-ish?
Yes.
Mhm.
And so that when I feel like it was last fall, we had a quick meeting with council. And Kelly went up there. And we're just kind of, thinking outside the box, thinking of any options. And I think Kelly suggested, how about, in that spot over there? We don't have to go in that meadow area, and we'll create a new spot. And just because it's lodgepole pine, maybe it's, not that much of a disturbance.
And it's flat.
It's pretty flat.
Flatter.
Yep. Yeah, so that's option 4. And the last option was the off-road parking just above. Here's the big turn. Here's the meadow area kind of. And then option 5, yeah, so we're doing parking off the road, which usually isn't that highly recommended just because it is off the road. But as we kind of know, if you're not familiar, that the traffic on this road is pretty limited. So the hazards of cars, and it's also a nice straight shot as well. We're not dealing with any corners here compared to the existing one. And so this option, the benefits of this are it's minimal disturbance. We're able to take some of the fill from the high side on this north side and bring it over to the low side and use that fill. So we're not trucking or hauling any of that. It's all on site, kind of zero fill in that area. And it does have the potential to create up to 34 spots.
In total, okay, is that option 6?
5.
5? Where's option 4 in relationship to option 5?
Yeah, so it's right in here.
Okay, right across the
Yep.
street, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I get you.
Where's the current parking on this?
Current parking you can't see, Bobby, but here is the gate that you would enter in, the green gate,
Uh-huh.
and the trailhead is probably right about there.
And so where people park now is in front of that gate and just.
Yeah,
down
where
from
people
it.
park now is kind of where my cursor is.
Oh, okay. So this is further down the road?
It's actually up the road. So you would travel past the parking spot, past the green gate and go up.
Oh, up toward where there's some houses?
Mhm.
Mhm. A lot more level there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The county did bring these plans to OSAC about 2 weeks ago, I think. They looked at all the options. OSAC, I think their favorite option was option 5 that we're looking at right now. Jordan from the county did talk to their road and bridge, Robert Jacobs, and he was also in favor of this trailhead for plowing and access. We were going to get back to him. He had some concerns about this kind of east-northeast side for winter plowing and where they would actually stack snow. He definitely preferred this low side and was like, I don't, would these actually work on this uphill side with snow sacking storage? He was a little unsure about. That was something Jordan was going to check in with him. And we were just concerned about that just because the spots down here account for 14 spots. And I just got a email from the county. They've had cameras up at the trailhead, kind of monitoring since middle of November. And they've kind of said capacity is at 13. They've seen up to 18 if everybody parks perfectly, but maximum capacity is at 13 of the existing size. So, with only 14 spots down below, it doesn't provide really room for growth on that. Or
So you'd maintain the current configuration and do either 4 or 5?
so we would not, Jeffrey. We would probably re-veg.
Or get rid of the
We'd get
current?
rid of it. Maybe it would become snow storage for the plows.
Okay.
That would not exist. We might potentially there's like 1 or 2 spots kind of up towards the Green Gate that are pretty flat. Those might stay.
Yeah.
But good question. Yeah, the old spot would go away.
So when we went out there with town council, there was some concern that the neighbors would not be happy about having parking going up toward their houses. Is that not a? issue anymore?
I wasn't part of that discussion. I wasn't sure, but I can check back on it. You're saying the house is up here? We're
Yeah, because
concerned about it?
this is past where the Green Gate is.
That's
You're
correct.
Going up and sort of veering to the right.
Yep.
And I know that there was some discussion about neighbors not welcoming that parking closer to them.
Okay. That's definitely something to consider, and we're more than willing to do some outreach to them and talk to those homeowners and see how they feel. But I think at some point, yes, we want to listen to concerns as well, but we also want to address a safety concern
Oh,
as well
yeah.
too, right? So finding that balance is good.
Always is.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah,
Kristen has her hand up.
she does. Hey, Kristen.
Hi. I was actually going to ask, one of my questions was Bobby's question, and I know also on that lower side, there's lots right below that. So just curious to see what outreach is. On the flip side, though, on a busy day, I've seen people parallel parking up here, and I'm sure that's even worse for some of these neighbors. My other question was, because current capacity is like 13 to 18, and this is a proposal for much more, would we ever consider phasing this in as opposed to if you build it, they will come sort of situation, and maybe just start with one side?
Yeah, I think that's a good question for us to discuss. I think as staff kind of agreed, like 34 is probably not the magic number that we're going for. And going something smaller would be probably good. Finding that right number of growth. With the a project like this, it can be phased, but it's also more cost effective, obviously, to do it once and do it right. But with that phasing, we'd want to look at doing both sides ideally, just so we could have that net zero of fill where we're just kind of moving it from one side of the road to the other. But it's not that big of a deal if we had to, ship up some fill and do it as well. So
We have trail counters there. Do we know how much use it's getting now?
So we just from the cameras, it's been full, I think 12 times. Only during the weekends.
Winter
Yep.
use? What
Yeah,
about,
sorry.
what's it like in the summer?
So summertime, we have not really had the cameras up there, just been more of like staff and just user kind of based.
Yeah, I
It
go
does
up there.
get some use. And there is potential for growth up there with the whole Mountain Pride site and kind of what we do with those structures and the mining structures up there. So there is potential. And we kind of want to account for that as well. But I think what we're looking at mostly is that wintertime use and addressing that.
I know we're not too far down the road on option 5, which I do like. It's funny how good ideas resurface themselves. I think we brought that up a long time ago. But would we consider reorienting the trailhead instead of going through the Green Gate, go something further down near the parking?
Right. We could easily put in a small trail here to
Yeah.
get people up.
Because we don't want to have the parking up the road and then have everybody walk back
Walking.
down the road to go to the trailhead.
No, I think that would be a great option, Chris.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
I think Kristen's point about, or Nikki's about if we build it, they will come, is I would like to go out there in the winter, but after hearing all the horror stories about cars smashing into one another, I haven't done it. But if there's parking, more people will be there.
Right.
I
Yes.
do just worry about this becoming another like Spruce Creek situation. I do agree that we need to figure this out, but I do think, I don't know, 34 spots feels like a lot, and it's a steep hill in the winter, even just to drive there. And I think that making this the new default Baldy trailhead does give me some pause. Just if we build this many spots and make it such a destination, it just kind of used to be this backdoor entrance. So we just have to be clear that that's what we're doing if we're going to build all of these spots.
No, yeah, good point, Chris. And I think the build it, they will come. Yes, that is somewhat true, but they're coming already, and we need to figure out something. And like we said, yeah, if 34 is too high, then, let's think about something that feels good, that we like, that we can kind of go with.
But even in the summer, it's a nice hike. I like to
It's
take
beautiful.
friends from out of the area
Yeah.
up there because it's a nice way to get to Mountain Pride, and
Be hard to
It's
see
not hard.
anybody and yeah.
Seems to me option 5 seems great. We just gotta figure out the number. I mean, currently there's a safety issue and this solves that. And current capacity is 14, you said?
Yeah, Allison said 13 was like the number that she is seeing the most when it reaches capacity, just because of the parking, so, and she said she's seen up to 18, and I don't know if she meant like actually in like the
Mhm.
designated parking area
Totally
or
parallel.
cars
I've seen
parallel
parallel
or
parking, yeah.
down the road as well.
I would say that probably the best option to avoid outcry from the neighbors, because I also heard that
Okay.
there was some concern from neighbors, is to consider something that's phased, and maybe you start on that other side of the road first, because I think when you're head in, if you head in park, you kind of could have, although I guess there's a bit of a grade there, but shining headlights in there or whatnot might be, not that it's a big nighttime use, but it's certainly significant. So if we're at 12 days that it's full, maybe, an increase up to say 16 or 17. So maybe it's a combination of a few spots, and then snow removal. There could be just snow storage on that other side there. You could get your fill, they use it for snow storage in the wintertime. That way it just kind of naturally isn't extra parking. And then, yeah, I don't know. But I agree with Chris, with the trail.
We gotta quit doing that. It's happening too much lately. What's our property on that uphill side, I guess?
It's
South of that. pit
Yeah.
parking? Is that all us?
like this right in here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have a lot of leeway.
so we could, like, we wanted to try to alleviate some of the crowd. We could have a left to the Lorium to go to Baldy and a right to go back towards Pinball and make it more of a cross-country loop or something like that. We might be able to play with the
Yeah, I think that,
trails to
yeah.
mitigate some of it.
Mhm.
This is, maybe I'm not connecting the right dots, but for Copper Canyon, what would the parking be for that area?
Good question. But hold off.
Well, I just wonder if, I know it's a bit
Oh,
of a circuitous connection, but like, do we need to think about people, or is that just not? I know you talked about connections down the road to
Mhm.
these zones.
Depot would be needed for that.
Yeah, and this potentially might have it, but I see like the Copper Canyon area as more of like a dense little network of trails that will supplement the neighborhood around it.
Sure,
And
okay.
then the trails on the outside will be those connections to get out. So I don't really see it as like a more of a parking destination. Like I almost see people riding from town or wherever and using those through trails to access the greater.
Okay. I'm just trying to thinking long-term, how we accommodate growth and as we think about parking numbers here.
No, I like it. It's good. It's good. And
Yeah.
I think staff, for us, we were thinking around that 20 to maybe 25 or spot range for numbers.
There,
Um,
there, there was on Copper Canyon, before we purchased the property, some rogue parking, that was taking place there. You could probably fit about 6 cars, but I don't think you would be able to really put in a lot there, just because the topography really limits you, but we have been talking about some kind of connection from Copper Canyon to all points, including, this particular area at Lorium. NEPA would be needed for a lot of that because there's some national forest in between, but it's great long-term planning, we think. Yeah.
Kristen has her hand up again.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Nope, I just never lowered it. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Sore after
Enjoying the
long.
conversation though.
I do, just to echo, I like Kristen's phasing idea. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
clever.
Neil, can you step up to the mic so we can, please, we'd love to hear from you.
We might need to turn that on too, Neil. There's a button right on top. For the wide
For
world.
Kristen.
Is that one on? Yes, it
Yep.
is. Hi, I'm Neil Groundwater, representing Summit Public Radio and TV tonight. I've looked at these maps. I've been at the Lorium site throughout time over the years, so winter and summer, but that's for a different discussion. I just want to remind the engineering firm that Excel has 2 boxes just off of option number 1, if you bring that back up, Tony. They're slightly visible in the drawing. That one. So there's the current parking places, which I admit the slope is awful, especially in the winter. But just off to the right of that, no, let's just say northeast of that lot, there's Excel Power that we buried up there. And then coming down to the south, well, to the lower right behind Kristen's poster there, going into option 2 and 3, that clear road, that clear spot there that we've revegetated at some expense. Go ahead to the gate. Go ahead to number 2. Okay, there's a power cable 4 feet underneath the current grade going up and then crossing that little bridge by the water there. And I just want to make sure the engineering firm knows that's there. It's not energized, a different discussion again, another day. But that's it.
Thank you.
Thank
Neil.
you.
Good work on that.
But it sounds like that could potentially be a good topic for the joint meeting. And do you all have strong feelings on any of these options presented, even in some scaled back manner?
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think, I think I would vote for having, 4 initially, maybe not in a great magnitude like we did, like say the B&B trailhead, but a reasonable amount there, and leaving the door open for 5 down the road, maybe initially for snow storage, but just to kind of, I think the 4 will be a little bit less intrusive into the hood, and it will give people a chance to pull in, turn around and come out with their nose, opposed to if they have to, whatever, if they have to turn around on the right side of the road. So yeah, I'd say 4, but I'd leave the door open for 5. But I do think that there is a sense of if they build it, they will come. Yeah, they are already arriving, but I'd like to just do it incrementally, not make it huge all the way initially.
Yeah, I like 5 primarily. And I would probably open up looking at option 3 as kind of a secondary, because I think that after the visits that we took up there, I don't think the stuff on the other side of the gate is truly a pristine meadow. I think it's got mine detriment and other things, as long as we're protecting the pond and stuff like that. I think that actually would be a good experience leaving from a parking lot straight to the skiing. But I do like 5 as the best option.
Chris, just curious, what don't you like about 4? Or,
I don't think it solves any problems, really, other than getting the parking off, but we're still gonna have too many people crowded in there, and I just see it being overparked and more problematic. Tough to say from a drawing, but that's my take.
Yeah. And that, there's one thing to point out. Right now, that number 4 is a current capacity of 12 spaces as it's designed right now. There's definitely opportunities to look at expanding that with Don, the engineer.
Wait, number 4 isn't that the one that the flat one right there where your cursor is, and I thought you said that was like you could do something like 25 or something.
That is option number 5, has the potential for 34 spots.
25 is on the side of the road,
Yep.
correct? Oh,
Correct.
so 4, you can only go how many spots?
Right now, the way Don has it, our engineer has it drawn out as a capacity of 12. And that's how he did the whole disturbance and
So we would do away with the current parking and just put 12 there?
well, it is an option. I don't think we would move in that direction. I think we would, if we wanted to move with 4, I think we would ask our engineer to spec this out to a larger number to see if that's possible and look at those disturbance numbers.
Yeah, let me amend my thing. If we can't get more than 12 and 4, I would go to 5.
I think we can, but it would just be more disturbance in that area.
And they also,
Large pole and flat, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at like, 2% grade, so like really nice.
how would the dealing with snow storage in that scenario be? And plowing?
Yeah, so there is, some, you can see where these topo lines are. So there's some steeper grades, so there is the potential to plow off the ends, but at some point, you lose that, and then you need to bring up like a front end loader to do larger pushbacks. And it's pretty snowy up there.
Yeah.
It really is. So, definitely something to take into consideration.
he points out that in the option 4, that you might need to do a connector trail. Would you have to do that in 5?
I don't think we would have to, but I feel like for a small amount of work, the experience that
Yeah.
you would get would be great.
I can go, I support 5. I like that it's scalable. Again, I feel like got to figure out what that magic number is, and then we could always expand from there. And I'd be curious to get council's input on that, but, I am in favor of option 5 at, somewhere near current capacity and then growing from there.
So Tony, I just have one quick question on 5, on the south side. It looks like there's cut slope in there. Is that, so that would be added, correct? So the vegetation would be pulled back a little
Yes.
bit beyond the front end of the parking spaces, right?
Right. Yep. Those, where those steeper lines are, those would be the fill sloping down that usually at a 2-to-1 ratio. So it does provide a good chance for revegetation.
I think 5 for the reasons that have been said.
Yeah, 5 seems to make the most sense to get the most bang for your buck.
Mr. Rossi?
I like 5. I just would prefer a phased approach.
Uh-huh.
Too.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Kristen?
Yeah, I guess 5 with a phased approach. I do just want to reiterate, I think this is too many spots, and I know there's not a ton of houses up there, but I do think putting parking on both sides is, especially on a Saturday, going to make that road pretty annoying to pass through if it is really at capacity, if there are parking spots on both sides, like dogs running around and everything. I think it already gets to be pretty crowded with the spaces that we do have. So if we double it and put it on both sides, I think it could make it a little bit of a crowding issue. But I do think it's the better option. So I think I would do 5 phased approach.
Would, do you guys want to go around and just throw out some numbers and we'll take an average? What do you think?
Total 4 and 5 or total whatever we do?
Hey, I think from what I heard, if we heard 5 was a
Oh,
consensus, right? If we
Yeah.
went with 5, I think you guys all kind of felt comfortable with that. And just saying, what number do you feel comfortable with as a phased approach? We start at this and then we go if we need to. Maybe we don't. I don't know. But just so we have something to work
Yeah.
towards, and maybe when we go to, if we do have this meeting with council, it could be a number we could bring up and hash it out.
Okay, honor system. You can't just skew the averages by saying.
I was gonna say
Okay,
2,
yeah.
just to make sure.
Okay, what's your number, David?
My number I think is 15.
Bobby?
I'd go bigger. I'd go 24 and just get this done.
Okay. Nikki?
I also picked 15 just for the record, independently of Dave.
Okay, I picked 20 all by myself. Chris?
20, just doing one side of the road at first, the uphill side.
Jeffrey?
I'd do 20 because it's gonna turn into 60 when the snow flies.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, honestly, I'd go 18.
18.
I'd go 18, just because.
Kristen?
Yeah, I was gonna say 15 to 20 and try and do it all on the side of the road that the trail is on.
So is that 17 and a half?
Yeah, my final answer is 17 and a half.
Okay.
I'm gonna-
Retail price. though.
Duke, I'm gonna switch mine to 20 because to your point that people don't always park well. So 20 is more like 15.
Let's go. I mean, you guys are
Good
all
point. I round up to
within
18.
a couple of numbers. I think that's great.
That's good enough to,
Yes.
and I do think this would be good to discuss with council and say, we're in the range of 18. What are your thoughts?
Cool.
Great. Anything else on that?
That's great.
Thanks for, that option 5 is great, pleasant.
One very last question. Do we know how many houses, and I'm sorry if you already said this, but are past this generally?
I really don't.
Yeah.
Like,
Not many.
But there's building going on up there.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but I mean, I think they're all very excited about having 105 acres of open space right near their homes too. So, I mean, you gotta
Oh.
take the bitter with the batter.
What are we gonna do without you?
I know.
have no idea.
Oh, you missed the he compared the beginning of Bosac origin story was making smoothies out of puppies. None of us can pull it off.
I'm glad that's been
Says that
repeated
word
for the
again.
record. Dave.
Okay, Jeffrey,
Okay.
council matters related to open space topics.
Yeah, well, of course, we dealt with the whole BGV thing. Lucy, don't leave quite yet. We dealt with the whole BGV thing and we're, huh? Oh, yes, I would love you to. I just need to ask Larissa about some. So anyway, yeah, BGV thing, that's proceeding. Hopefully the BOSAC will get, get some love from that. It's still not a done deal. Why I wanted Larissa here, we're talking about demolition by neglect ordinance, which what we're going to do is pass an ordinance that requires people to maintain at least a semblance of structural integrity of their historical cabins on their homes. And we've did an exhausting research of all the cabins in the town of Breckenridge and
Sheds.
in the various degrees of neglect. Some are pretty good, some are actually we got to do something sooner than later. So we're gonna be passing that ordinance. I think it's second reading tomorrow. But also for the other side of it, there is a grant process that people can apply for to get some funding to maintain. Because we've seen the great job that his BHA did putting the strap around the Preston cabin. We want to avoid that. Want to have like real structures. And actually, I think BHA is considering kind of upgrading some of their cabins this summer, right? Trying to stabilize them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Preston's definitely looking at, we're trying to stabilize there.
Yeah.
We're doing that whole historic research.
Yeah. So what I'm talking about is mostly in town, exclusively in town. But yeah, we'll hopefully maintain the historical significance of some of these cabins. So that's another thing. And we also talked about there is going to be a grant process that they can apply to us or to the state, Mark. Yeah. So yeah, and so we've been kind of looking at that. And there's really, if you want to go to the old agenda, there's an exhausting map of all the structures in town, and some of them are little outhouses, some of them are old barns and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
95, there were 90.
Yeah,
of them
95.
on that map.
Yeah. So that's about it. And we're looking forward to this April 9th meeting with BOSAC. So be thinking about what you guys want to put on the agenda and reach out to Ann, Tony. Okay, I'm sorry to keep you.
Thank you, Larissa.
Thanks, Larissa.
Jeffrey, thank you. We
I have another,
miss you.
I have another matter too, by the way.
Okay, well, it's not time for that yet.
I'm not gonna chew my cabbage twice.
Okay. Thanks for everything, Jeffrey. Do you have any other matters?
Is it time for other matters? Yeah, did you get the email from Lee G about the backside of Sally Barber? They, since the Berlin Plaza development has gone in, there was, I think at one time, an understanding would have like a 6-car parking for the backside. And now the road hasn't been maintained. I don't know if it's our responsibility or it's the developer, but it's just almost impossible to park there, to find a place to park on the backside of Sally Barber. And it'd be nice to reach out to the Berlin Plaza people and make best practices, get that thing done.
Yeah, and we're hearing that loud and clear, and it was actually brought up at the last meeting. And Catherine King was here and
Okay.
she did look into it. And we did get an email back from her, and they were looking into it, and there seems to be some underlying issues that are making it a
Yeah.
little more difficult.
You know what happened.
And
Issues.
Yeah, so we're still looking into it. We can get back to you on that. I know we'll get back with Lee and hopefully have some more
Okay,
information
good.
on that.
All
But
right.
you're right, Berlin Plaza should have a designated trailhead. I don't know if that's been constructed yet,
Okay.
or if it's not plowed, but
And you guys get, I think you guys are included in the, Ann is,
Mhm.
okay, good.
cool.
Yeah, that was my question last meeting. So just to clarify, it's the developer's responsibility?
Kristen, we don't really know. We're still looking.
Oh, okay,
into-
that's the issue. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yep.
Shouldn't you be at your bachelor party?
I'd rather be here with you guys.
Wow. Dances haven't got here then.
Party.
I have a small one related to winter parking. I've brought it up before, but I think actually, I don't know. There is the parking at the Green Gate for the Siberian Loop in the Peak 7 County Road. I'm sorry, I don't know the road. There's a sign there with a QR code saying you must register to park here. And it's been there all winter. And I think I don't know the municipality that's doing that. I suspect it's because there's complaints from the Nordic Center of people skiing at the ski resort and parking there and skiing down to their car when they're done. But I don't know that. What I figure is that's just free data. Like, could we figure out who's collecting that parking information? Cause I know it's not necessarily on our network, but that's just more winter use data that we could probably get easily.
On the bottom of a Siberian loop?
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Well,
Yeah.
that's
It might-
how they track parking at the Nordic Center. So it might be the Nordic Center.
It might be them.
Yeah.
Sure. And they have some new signage up at the bottom of that access road that says, doesn't say you need a trail pass. It says you need a dog that's under control and you need to, I don't know, like basic rules of etiquette. So they have beefed up signage there, but it's certainly not just, it's winter use for beyond just Nordic Center customers.
I have another matter.
Yes.
I just figured I might as well do it now because I'll have to call Rossi the next meeting to have him have my other matter. Speaking of the Green Gate, the Lewis garages? There's like 4 spots to the south of the Lewis garage where you can ski to Dry Gulch and Fall Classing and whatnot. And there's one spot, a hammerhead right there. And years past, that hammerhead was just a little bit wider, so you can get 2 cars next to each other. Now it's just 1 car. And if if there's another car, it blocks it in. But at any rate, so I think, not much winter left, but I think if we can I don't know who plows that. Is that county?
I think that's the county plows that, and also those, was it 2 or 3 other spots a little further south?
That's been well plowed.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's for years, you could always get 2 cars in. This is the first winter I can remember that it was so narrow, it was just one, you couldn't get 2 cars next to each other.
I think that's the county.
No.
No,
Contractor for,
I don't know if it's for the Lewis Ranch
Mhm.
people or
Right.
not, but I've seen equipment up there
yeah.
before, and it's not marked
Mhm.
with, town or county.
Huh.
Those
And
Lewis
I can,
people are
I
pretty
can
cool.
imagine that road prism, why that would change for the plowing, because it is just a dirt road. Seemed like it'd be hard to get 2 cars in there. And also part of that too, Jeffrey, we snowmobile groom through there as well. So that does provide access for our snowmobile. And if somebody doesn't park their car correctly right there, it's impossible to get the snowmobile through to
Oh,
the
so,
Old Run Road.
so
Yeah.
maybe the 1 car is, so we can preserve access to the snowmobile, to groom for the UFAT bikers. Okay, all right, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Note on the asphalt portion right before their gate, are those legal spots? Is that like a legal driveway parking for them? And I've been up there, I think it was a few weeks ago, there was an enormous trailer parked there that locked, you come off that groomed side that connects to Gold Run Road. And they had an enormous trailer that had been there for a long time. I don't know.
Are you talking a little closer to the neighborhood where that house is kind of finishing up construction?
No, below the Lewis Ranch
Okay.
gate,
Okay.
right there, there's, you know, kind of a little bit of there's sort of a retaining, kind of a pseudo retaining wall.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the summer you come off of that.
Mhm.
And that's what kind of goes uphill. So that's from the first western sky.
Yes.
And then you have the groomed along, you know, there's just two spaces. So you're heading north.
Mhm.
And it's before you get through what we were just talking about
Okay.
on Gold Run.
Yeah, I haven't, and there was a car blocking that?
It was a
or-
trailer. It was
Yeah.
just an enormous trailer that was
Okay.
left there. So I didn't say anything about it, but I guess to tie on to that one thing, and I don't know if this is a county thing with the houses that are not yet built there. I think one of the I don't know, I think we just missed the boat on that one house at the top of Gold Run Road that they are plowing their driveway all the way down to the asphalt, and they're doing it in the, you know, early morning. So you get to the top on skis, you can't do anything. I don't know if there's a way for us to ensure that whatever permits happen on these other parcels, that we can build some kind of a workaround trail to go around that driveway to connect.
Good point. Thank you.
Any other matters? Kristen, you got any?
No, sir.
Thanks for joining us. Palm Springs.
Sounds like a wild party, Kristen.
It is wild.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Kristen.
Kristen, we can party tonight.
This isn't really like a partying one. Nikki can attest to the bride. It's pretty
You're at a
PG.
library?
Where it's very PG.
The museum tour. All right.
Jeffrey.
That was sandals.
Living life.